If you were among the more than 10,000 visitors to Elon University's campus last year, you may have noticed the red bricks, Carolina blue skies, and the many, many white faces. But for 6% of students at this small, private liberal arts university in North Carolina, what they're seeing may be as different as black and white.
Hey man, I'm gonna be contributing to the diversity, and oh, you bet I'm gonna shake things up.
Elon Jr. Ethan Gaskin is one of approximately 400 black students at the university and says he's aware of how his race is affecting his time on campus. Ethan and his brother Evan say they attend a school that lacks inclusivity, and they say the student body and administration isn't doing enough to change.
They're thinking about diversity to some extent, but it's hard to say that there's a home for the students they've brought in at the moment.
Is that fair?
As a minority, things are rarely fair.
The Gaskins' perceptions of black student life on campus match those published in an Elon Task Force report on black student, faculty, and staff experiences released last year. The survey, sent to all Elon students, asked questions about campus inclusivity and safety. Associate Provost for Inclusive Community, Brooke Barnett, says the results surprised even the task force itself. Nearly 80% of black respondents say they do not feel physically safe on campus. 4 out of 5 respondents don't feel safe.
Devastating to read that. I think for a lot of people, I think even people on the task force, when they saw those survey results, had been hearing stories and other types of things, but didn't really quite understand how widespread that feeling would be on campus.
The Gaskins say each racially charged interaction weighs heavily on their minds. While Ethan and Evan say they've never been physically assaulted, Ethan says he experienced overt racism one night from a fellow Elon student while walking down the street with his friend Chris.
He's like, hey, and then Chris is like, who is this guy yelling at? So we turn around and he was like, hey, you niggas trying to get in the party? And we were like, no.
Prospective students likely aren't experiencing incidents like that while visiting Elon. To encourage minority students to come to campus, Elon's Office of Admissions hosts a weekend geared towards non-white students who have been accepted into the incoming class. It's called Phoenix Fusion Weekend, named after the school's mascot. Randy Williams is the Associate Vice President for Campus Engagement. He says the weekend gives minorities the chance to see what Elon has to offer.
This is an opportunity for students to spend a night on campus and to stay with a current student and maybe attend some events on campus as well. And so it's really to give a pseudo experience. For Ethan, it's not just the experience that is pseudo.
Elon has a deceitful way of going about it. So like a lot of specifically black students were like, yo, when I came for our weekend, it was like only black people. And they were like, whoa, well, I didn't think it was gonna be like this. Okay, yeah, cool, this is all right. This is cool, I can do this.
But Ethan says it wasn't all right.
And then a lot of them came and were like, where'd everybody go? Like, what happened? Like, did they just hire all those people? Like, where is everybody?
Those questions are posed by freshman Kenneth Brown Jr. as well. He's the president of his class, and he agrees with the Gaskins. Kenneth says a weekend like Phoenix Fusion feels like false advertising.
If you come here for a weekend and you're surrounded by just black people or Latino people or very little white people, then that is misleading because you're not showing them what they're really getting themselves into.
Kenneth grew up about a half-hour west in Greensboro, North Carolina, a city where more than 40% of residents identify as black. Kenneth says the transition from a city like Greensboro to Elon University, where just 6% of the students identify as black, often leaves him thinking he's nothing more than just a statistic.
I don't know. Sometimes you feel that, you got here because, they need to fill in a quota. And I hate that excuse. I like to think that I got something because I was good enough to do it and I was qualified enough to do it.
We talked to a high-profile freshman, and he told us that he sometimes feels that he's at this university because the university needs to fill a quota. And as the Associate Provost of Inclusive Community, whose job it is to make sure students don't feel that way, what's your response to that?
Oh, I hate to hear that, right? I would hate to feel that as one of the few women on our senior staff that I was there to fill a quota. That's a terrible feeling, right? So I think that that student should realize that he earned a place at Elon University like every other student here.
Though Barnett says all students have earned their acceptance into Elon, not all students can breathe a sigh of relief once they arrive on campus. This caution, for some, comes as a result of recent tragedies, including the deaths of Trayvon Martin, Freddie Gray, and others.
I questioned that for like the first 3 weeks of my first semester here, whether at night, whether I wanted to wear a hoodie, and if I did wear it, how were my hands, where were they at? My body gestures, how was I walking? Do I look menacing?
Kenneth sees there are bigger things at stake here than wardrobe choices, and he hopes others could do the same.
Just because a guy might have on a hoodie and his pants might be low, even though I hate that very much, that doesn't mean that they're up to do something bad. They could just be walking, and I would like people to respect that.
Kenneth isn't the only one who thinks the lack of respect for black students doesn't end in the classroom. After 4 years of donning her Elon uniform, senior Simone Jackson is a decorated track and field student athlete and currently holds the record for fastest 100-meter dash. Yet despite these accolades, Simone, like Kenneth, says she's noticed for the color of her skin rather than the number pinned to her uniform.
But I do feel like I do get viewed as Simone Jackson, oh, she's the black girl on the track team that is really involved on campus. That's how I see people see me, but that's not how I want people to see me. I definitely feel like my blackness is prominent.
Something faculty is noticing as well. Assistant Professor of History Dr. Amy Johnson teaches classes that cover topics including race relations and slavery. She says she struggles to have some students take her seriously.
You know I don't always succeed. I know that sometimes students will tune me out because I am a black woman, and they'll say, well, Dr. Johnson is speaking from a place as a black woman and not from a place of expertise.
Do you think that they're showing power as a good thing or a bad thing?
It's not just me speaking as a black woman, that these are things that you can see, there's evidence of this. And so it can be exhausting sometimes to try to walk that line between my lived experiences and my academic expertise.
Faculty members say they deal with that line outside of the classroom as well. Associate Professor of Communications Dr. Naima Clark says she was working at the university for less than a week when there was an incident in downtown Elon she believes was prompted by her race.
I was walking through the crosswalk and a car drove by me and didn't stop, and I went, oh, like that. And the person stopped, it was a student, stopped, rolled down his window and said, don't wave your arms at me, bitch.
Stunned, Clark took this story to administrators.
I said, I felt like this was a racial incident, and was told, that really seemed more gendered. And I said, that would not have happened to a white woman crossing the street. I guarantee it would have happened to a white woman.
Clark didn't expect the administration's response.
And I felt very isolated, very much alone. I felt humiliated. And I felt that no one believed me and no one supported me. And I thought, I've got to get out of here. I can't work at this place. I don't trust these people. I don't trust these administrators. And then I thought, no, I'm here for a reason. And so it really became my motivation to change the way I teach and to talk about issues related to diversity, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, politics, whatever.
And it is not just Clark. As chair of the task force on Black student, faculty, and staff experiences, Williams has similar goals.
Are you happy with the state of campus inclusivity right now?
I am pleased with the efforts and the attention given to inclusion at the university, absolutely. But I'm not happy with the outcomes.
But as Williams stresses, those outcomes are not final.
And so we want to create a setting, an academic community, and an environment, an atmosphere where members can be who they're destined to be.
University administration created the Center for Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education, so they say all students can be educated and equipped with how to better respect and understand each other and themselves. Despite the creation of these programs, some Black students still struggle to believe whether the university cares enough about them.
Does the white student population at Elon care about Black people?
I think so. I think there are pockets of people that care.
Shouldn't the entire campus care about black people?
This entire campus should care about black people, but then again, we don't live in a utopia, and everything isn't perfect, sadly.
Does Elon care about black students? I think Elon cares, but I don't think Elon's trying hard enough to make an imprint and be inclusive.
When a white student sees you, Kenneth Brown Jr., how do they see you? What do they see you as?
I hope that they, see me as Kenneth or just another student,
What do you think in reality they see you as?
or just another black kid.
Ethan and Evan say this environment is not limited to Elon, but society as a whole.
It's a battle against ignorance.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say,
It's
like,
a struggle.
it's also a battle against misinformation. Because,
Yeah.
if I walk down the sidewalk and somebody's like, oh, clutching their purse, it's not because they're ignorant of black people, it's because they're misinformed about black people. The misinformation about black people, is the bedrock, like one of the bedrocks of American identity.
Kenneth says his peers will be the ones to chip away at that bedrock.
With the African American population in this first year class, there's a spark in us that it's going to turn into a fire, and it can get big depending on if we keep it going. But the future is bright.
He knows that bright future won't arrive overnight when dealing with a problem that reaches beyond the university's brick paths.
A part of changing the world and a part of changing your community is having hope and having faith. Faith that things will get better. That you have to look on the bright side, because that's how I survive.
Kenneth says younger classes will make the difference for the future of black students' experiences at Elon. Clark says Elon's administration needs to as well.
I just hope that Elon has as many different types of people as we can hold, right? Because I think in order to be an excellent university, we have to acknowledge that we live in a world of difference. And so if we're going to prepare our students for that, then our campus has to look like that.
Barnett says having a knee-jerk reaction to these incidents is not how to reverse the trend.
You do the slow work of culture change. You try to make the changing of a culture be part of the DNA of a campus. And one good thing we have at Elon University is we have evolved and changed as an institution over a period of years while staying true to things that are core to the institution. And I believe we can do that in this matter also.
Barnett says the university hasn't changed its values, but Clark says experiences within the classroom need to improve if the school wants to develop a more inclusive environment.
We have to create a very strong, solid network of students, white, black, Hispanic, whatever background, students who say, I won't tolerate this behavior.
Together as a community to help.
Kenneth is one of those students. He says he will continue to work towards creating this type of campus, not just for others, but for himself as well.
I like to believe that's not because of affirmative action. I like to believe that I was good enough to get into here. And anyone who dares defy that, I'm going to show you in 3 years when I walk across that stage